Well, Taryn and Keegan have put a ton of work into this property. They've put in beautiful food plots out in front of the stand, put a great pond right at 15 yards in front of the stand, really getting a ton of activity. And it's really starting to pay off for them. They're seeing great bucks and, quite a few of them, really having some great encounters. It's late October, it's cooling down, got a northwest wind, beautiful day, and Keegan realizes, hey, I'm gonna do some rattling, see if I can get a buck to approach our tree and show himself. So Keegan gets done with his rattling sequence, and it's not 20 seconds later, here comes this buck circling right in on their downwind side, and that's when they know, hey, our phase is going to either work now or this buck is going to blow out of here and spook. So Keegan realizes, hey, I want to call at this buck, slow him down and stop him, get a better look at who he is. He hits him with a couple of buck grunts and the buck slams on the brakes. He stops, he's listening, and then he turns his call completely the other way, directional calling, using that technique to call on the other side of him, pull that buck past him, hits it with an estrus bleat, and you can see the buck, just a light switch goes off. Absolutely incredible. Another great thing to notice about Keegan and what he did in this situation is, he's got that buck very close, 25 yards away down here on his right side. And so he takes the call and points it clear the other way, points away from that deer so that when that deer hears that call, he thinks it's coming from further away, and to draw him past that tree stand, he calls clear on this side of himself. That's another great virtue of the extinguisher, is the ability to switch so quick from one call and paint a picture of different deer in an area so you can draw a buck closer. Keegan hit him with that immature buck grunt and then switched immediately to an estrus doe in just a matter of seconds, and able to paint a picture of both those deer being down there, and that's what lured that buck to the tree. So you can see the leaves blowing in the trees. This wind is blowing exactly at this buck as he approaches the tree. He's moving towards the tree, 15 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards from the tree. Wind's blowing right at him, and the buck has absolutely no clue that they're in the tree. We've seen these kind of results for AWS and my pro staff all season long with phase. It's just great. It's incredible to be able to hunt with that kind of knowledge that, hey, I'm just not going to get picked off. So now that buck is closing the distance, 15 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards, and Keegan's got to make a decision. Is this a buck I want to try and kill? Well, that's one of the hardest things to do when you've got adrenaline surging and you're excited and it's a buck, and you're trying to figure out, is this buck 3 years old or 4 years old or 5 years old? Is he mature? How old is this deer? And especially, during October, the time of year when they're at their fattest, you can see this buck's been eating clover and some of the other AWS mixes that we make. He's just been chowing on that stuff all summer long. Finally, he realizes, hey, this is a great buck, got a big body. He's 4 years old, but not a buck he wants to try and harvest. But still, what an amazing encounter. Really showcases the phase and the calling, how well they can work together to bring that buck right into shooting range. So Keegan and Taryn make the decision to pass this buck. He's 4 years old. They want to see if they can get this buck even bigger, maybe as a 5-year-old harvest him, or even 6 or 7. As deer hunters, we know in the past, if a deer gets straight downwind of you and he's 20 yards away, normally you've got a big problem. That deer is going to sit there for a minute and figure out, hey, there's a human just upwind of me, and he's going to blow and bust out of there. It's going to be a total disaster. And what's so amazing about phase and how it works, totally encapsulating human odor and stopping the dander, This buck literally sits there. You can see he's trying to figure out, he knows something's there, but he cannot put it together that it's a human. So he's relaxed, he's calm, and he ends up, after 3 or 4 minutes of just standing there, he just kind of drifts off. He's completely clueless, has no idea that there's a human being upwind of him. And this is one of the key factors. They don't have that many tree stands on this fairly small property, and they certainly do not want to blow out this tree stand and alert this buck that, hey, we're in this tree. That buck will never approach that tree during daylight hours again. He'll always know, hey, I had a terrible encounter with humans out of that tree. I'm going to stay away from it. And that's a super important aspect of having great scent control, is you're not educating this individual buck to the fact that this tree is a hunting tree that humans are in sometimes, you know. And here, Taryn and Keegan, 2 guys up in a tree, and that deer is absolutely clueless that they're even there. They're so excited because they pulled off a successful hunt, had this buck, you know, well within shooting range, could have put an arrow in him, but they decided not to. They decided to try and grow him bigger, and that's where phase just really paid off for them, knowing that, hey, we didn't alert this buck at all. This buck is completely clueless and will pass by this tree for years to come. So it's a really successful hunt for them, and that's exactly why they use the phase system.